The mayor said king of music, so why does the world hear Jungkook? Inside Seoul's Gwangwonmun, the silent coronation, and the question that refuses to go away. What if the most important title in Korean pop culture right now has already been decided without a crown, without a ceremony, without anyone daring to say the name out loud? When the mayor of Seoul stood before cameras and declared that the return of the king of music was approaching, why did a single question immediately ripple through social media faster than any official press release? Was he really talking about BTS? Or was he talking about Jungkook? This is where the story begins, not with an answer, but with a tension that refuses to settle. Because officially, everything is clear. The words belong to Oh Se-hoon, the mayor of Seoul. The context is precise. The subject, on paper, is BTS as a complete group returning after mandatory military service. The occasion is historic. A full group comeback, an album release, and a major public performance scheduled for the 21st of March 2026 at 8 p.m. on Gwangwonmun Square, the symbolic heart of Seoul. And yet, in the hours after his remarks were broadcast by JTBC News and reported across Korea, Junang Daily, Korea Times, and other major outlets, the public conversation did not move in the direction officials likely expected. Instead of debating logistics, tourism strategy, or the economic ripple effect of tens of thousands of army flooding into the city, one name began to dominate timelines, comment sections, and speculative headlines. Jungkook. Not RM. Not BTS as a collective. Jungkook. The Golden Maknae. The member whose post-military shadow somehow appears larger, sharper, and more global than ever before. Why did that happen? And more importantly, what does it reveal about where K-pop and Korea's cultural diplomacy stands in 2026? The mayor's words were carefully chosen, at least on the surface. It seems the entire nation is waiting, Oh Se-hoon said, emphasizing gratitude, opportunity, and the significance of hosting BTS's comeback event at Gwangwonmun Square. He framed it as a moment Seoul must utilize well, a chance to showcase the city as a global cultural capital. The language was formal, civic, and patriotic. But embedded within that formality was a phrase that detonated across fandom discourse: the return of the king of music. In Korean pop history, titles matter. They always have. Nation singer, icon of a generation, global superstar. These are not casual labels. They are cultural signifiers, shorthand for power, legitimacy, and legacy. So when a sitting mayor, speaking not as a fan but as a representative of the city and, symbolically, the state, invokes royalty, the phrase cannot remain neutral. It invites interpretation. And interpretation, in the age of social media, moves faster than clarification. Army noticed immediately that the wording felt intimate rather than institutional. Not kings, plural, not legends, but the king, singular, personal, almost mythic, and in a global pop landscape increasingly driven by individual figures who function as cultural ambassadors, Taylor Swift for the US, Bad Bunny for Latin pop, Beyoncé as a singular institution, the idea that K-pop might also be represented by a single face no longer feels radical, it feels inevitable. That is where Jungkook enters the narrative with force. Since completing his military service, Jungkook's perceived global reach has only expanded. Even without constant releases, his name continues to trend whenever discussions of BTS's future arise. International chart performance, Western media fascination, cross-generational appeal, and an image that bridges idol precision with pop star universality have combined into something difficult to ignore. For many fans and observers, Jungkook does not merely participate in the BTS comeback narrative, he anchors it. Every discussion about the scale of BTS's return, the choice of Gwangwonmun Square, and the anticipated economic impact on Seoul seems to orbit the same gravitational center. How much of this magnetism belongs to Jungkook, and how consciously is that being leveraged? Gwangwonmun Square is not just a venue. That fact cannot be overstated. For Koreans, it is a site dense with history, authority, and national symbolism. It sits between Gyeongbokgung Palace and major government buildings, a space associated with protests, state events, and moments of collective memory. Choosing Gwangwonmun for a pop concert is, by definition, a political and cultural act. It signals legitimacy. It elevates entertainment into the realm of national narrative. Fans quickly pointed out that city officials could not possibly be unaware of this symbolism. Governments do not accidentally select spaces like Gwangwamun, which is why a more provocative theory began to circulate, that this stage is being prepared not only for BTS as a group, but for a singular image Korea wishes to project to the world, a face of modern Korea, a last king of an era where K-pop transitions from group-dominated mythology to individual global icons. Is that face Jungkook? Cultural commentators have noted that the mayor's language lacks the collective framing typically used when discussing BTS. Historically, BTS has been described as a phenomenon, a team, a movement. This time, the rhetoric felt different. The king of music reads like a title bestowed, not a description shared. In a media environment where every syllable is dissected, that distinction matters. Of course, not everyone agrees with this interpretation. Within ARMY itself, the debate has been intense. Some fans argue that isolating Jungkook undermines BTS's identity as a group built on synergy, mutual growth, and collective storytelling. BTS's power, they insist, has always come from 7 voices moving together. To elevate one above the others risks distorting that legacy. Others counter that recognizing Jungkook's outsized influence does not negate BTS's foundation. Instead, they see it as a natural evolution. BTS built the platform. Jungkook now stands at the edge of it, representing a new phase of Korean pop's global role. In this view, the group and the individual are not in competition, but in sequence history unfolding rather than fracturing. The timing only intensifies the speculation. The comeback event at Gwangwamun is scheduled just one day after the release of BTS's 5th full album, Arirang, a title steeped in Korean cultural resonance. The symbolism is almost overwhelming. A historic song name, a historic location, a group returning from military service, and a mayor framing the moment in royal terms. It feels designed to invite interpretation, whether intentionally or not. International media has already begun framing the event as more than a concert. Reports emphasize tourism surges, economic boosts, and Seoul's ambition to position itself as a safe, vibrant global city. City officials have outlined extensive crowd management plans, safety measures, and price monitoring to prevent exploitation around tourist zones. ARMY-themed events on the Hanggang River ferries are being prepared to enhance visitor experience. Every detail suggests orchestration on a national scale. And yet, beneath all of this planning, the emotional narrative has slipped beyond official control. Fans around the world are not asking about zoning or security. They are asking a simpler, more dangerous question. Who is this really for? Before a single note is played on Gwangwamun Square, the story has already been partially written by public imagination. Jungkook's name appears in speculative headlines, fan essays, reaction videos, and late-night debates. The idea of a silent coronation has taken hold, not an official declaration, but a cultural recognition unfolding in real time. Is this fair to BTS? Is it fair to Jungkook himself? Or is it simply the reality of global pop stardom in an era that demands symbols as much as songs? What makes this moment particularly volatile is that no one involved has confirmed or denied anything. The mayor has not clarified his wording. HYBE has not reframed the narrative. BTS members have not addressed the speculation. The silence acts as fuel. In the absence of answers, the loudest interpretation wins traction. And so, the world waits not just for the comeback, but for what that stage will reveal. Will Gwangwamun present BTS as a unified force reclaiming their throne together? Or will the cameras, intentionally or not, frame one figure as the axis around which the spectacle turns? If Jungkook steps onto that stage and the global response eclipses even the highest expectations, will the question finally be answered? Or will it deepen the divide between official narrative and public belief? Perhaps the most telling detail is this. Even critics who reject the King Jungkook theory admit that the conversation itself is unavoidable. It signals a shift. K-pop is no longer just exporting groups, it is exporting archetypes. And archetypes demand faces. Whether this moment becomes a footnote or a turning point depends on what happens under the lights of Gwangwamun on March 21. Until then, the speculation will continue to spiral, feeding on history, symbolism, and the undeniable pull of one name that refuses to stay in the background. Was the mayor speaking metaphorically? Or was he acknowledging a reality already recognized by the world? Is Jungkook being quietly positioned as Korea's modern icon? Or is this simply the projection of a fandom unable to separate magnetism from monarchy? One thing is certain. Before BTS has even performed, before Seoul has welcomed the crowds, before the first chant echoes across the square, the narrative battlefield has already been claimed. And in that space between official statements and collective imagination, Jungkook stands at the center of a question that may define the next era of Korean pop culture. When the king returns, will he arrive as 7 or as 1? And that unanswered question is precisely what keeps the world watching, refreshing timelines, dissecting phrasing, and replaying every second of that mayoral statement as if a hidden message might suddenly reveal itself. Because in pop culture, especially at this level, silence is never empty. It is loaded. It invites projection. And right now, projection is doing more narrative work than any official press release. What makes this moment unusually charged is the intersection of timing, power, and expectation. BTS are not returning as rookies, nor even as peak-era idols chasing relevance. They are returning as a group that survived military service, global hiatus, shifting industry dynamics, and the quiet anxiety of a world that wondered sometimes aloud, sometimes in whispers whether the magic would still hold. Seoul's leadership knows this. International media knows this. And ARMY, perhaps more than anyone, feels the weight of what comes next. Yet, despite all 7 names being listed in every formal report RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook, the emotional center of gravity keeps drifting. It drifts toward the member whose solo moments have repeatedly crossed cultural borders without translation. The one whose name Western hosts pronounce with ease, whose face appears in discussions about the future of global pop rather than just K-pop, whose presence feels instantly legible even to audiences with no prior investment in Korean idol culture. This is not accidental, fans argue, nor is it purely fan bias. Jungkook's post-military narrative aligns almost too neatly with what global pop culture tends to elevate at turning points. Youth that matured without losing softness, discipline forged through institutional obligation, and an image that reads both intimate and monumental. In other words, a figure who can be framed as national pride without feeling distant from individual emotion. And this is where the idea of Gwangwamun as a stage becomes impossible to ignore. Historically, performances at symbol-heavy locations are never just performances, they are statements. When governments open such spaces to artists, they are not merely permitting entertainment, they are endorsing representation. Gwangwamun Square has witnessed protests, commemorations, political tension, and moments of unity. To place a pop concert, there is to suggest that pop itself has become part of the nation's official story. So fans ask the uncomfortable question, officials will not. If this is a statement, what exactly is being said? Some observers believe the answer lies in how Korea increasingly navigates soft power. In the past decade, BTS as a group served as an ideal vehicle. 7 members, diverse personalities, collective ethos, and a narrative of teamwork resonating with both Confucian values and global youth culture. But as K-pop matures into a permanent fixture of global entertainment rather than a novelty, the calculus shifts. Individual figures become easier to export as symbols, easier to recognize, easier to headline international conversations. In that sense, Jungkook is not replacing BTS. He is translating BTS into a different language of influence. This interpretation unsettles part of the fandom precisely because it feels plausible. It suggests a future where BTS remains foundational but no longer singularly representative, where the group's legacy enables individual members to operate as cultural emissaries, intentionally or not. And among those members, Jungkook's positioning appears the most adaptable to that role. The debate intensified when international outlets began framing the comeback with language that subtly mirrored the mayor's phrasing. Words like historic, monumental, and era-defining appeared alongside Jungkook's name in social discourse more frequently than statistical analysis would predict. Algorithms noticed. Editors noticed. And once a narrative gains algorithmic momentum, it becomes self-reinforcing. Still, skeptics push back. They point out that Jungkook himself has repeatedly emphasized the importance of BTS as a whole, that the group's strength lies in balance, not hierarchy. That projecting a king narrative onto one member risks misunderstanding both BTS's philosophy and Korea's broader cultural values. To crown one is, in their view, to misread the story entirely. But even this resistance feeds the larger conversation. Because the fact remains, no one is arguing about whether BTS matters. The argument is about scale, symbol, and spotlight, about who the world sees first when Korea steps forward culturally. And looming over all of it is March 21. The night air at Gwangwamun will carry more than music. It will carry expectation thick enough to feel physical. Tens of thousands of fans will gather, cameras will align, drones will hover, and global broadcasts will compress that moment into